The congregation, please rise as we prepare to welcome our synagogue's veterans and children. Senator Peters, General Schenk, veterans, thank you. On behalf of our congregation, on behalf of our people, on behalf of our country, thank you. It is my pleasure now to welcome to the Shulchan and to the Bima a man who needs no introduction in this synagogue, but he is the chairman of our Veterans Shabbat Committee and judge advocate for the Michigan Department of Jewish War Veterans, Captain Donald Wagner. Captain Wagner served in the Military District of Washington, Pentagon Office of the Provost Marshal General, where he was in charge of AWOL deserter apprehension operations, White House liaison, and lost and stolen military weapon operations. Captain Wagner is a longtime leader within this congregation, and of course, he is married to Congregational Past President Dottie Wagner. Captain Wagner.
Thank you, Rabbi Starr. Shabbat Shalom. While everybody is standing, let us show our collective appreciation to our Jewish war veterans, their spouses, and their families. Please be seated. Also, we welcome today our students, who for the first time are participating with the veterans in this event. In addition to the Jewish War Veterans Color Guard, we also express our thanks to the Southfield Police Color Guard, who have honored our veterans by their presence here today, as well as Sergeant Bill Glogauer, who has spent countless hours organizing, directing, and coordinating the Color Guards in this processional. Would everyone please rise now for the national anthem? Veterans, present arms.
The dawn's early light, once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, who brought stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red glare of bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please take your seats. I am honored and privileged to be standing before you today and to chair this 10th anniversary of Veterans Shabbat. Our heritage teaches us that for thousands of years, the Jewish people have been recipients of a wide variety of traditions, transmitted from generation to generation. This event, like many others, has become a meaningful and important tradition of our congregation. We express our appreciation to the Veterans Committee, whose names are in your handout, to the entire clergy and staff of Congregation Shaarey Zedek for your hard work and dedication to ensure the success of this Veterans Shabbat, as well as to General Donald Schenk, the senior officer present, for leading our processional today, and to Senator Peters for honoring our veterans by his presence. On this 10th anniversary of Veterans Shabbat, we are proud to share this year with the 75th anniversary of D-Day. D-Day, the invasion of Europe, which led to the end of World War II and victory over tyranny, oppression, and challenges to our way of life. And of course, so linked with us as the Jewish people, the liberation of the camps, ending the Holocaust, thus ensuring the future of freedom and democracy. Over 4,000 Jewish soldiers participated in the D-Day invasion, and over 100,000 Jews were liberated from the concentration camps. The Jewish war veterans have established a legacy that spans the entire history of our country, from the War of Independence through 2 world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. As members of the armed forces, the Jewish war veterans, like all veterans, left the safety, security, and comfort of their homes, families, and jobs, heading off to danger and sometimes insurmountable odds in daunting places such as Normandy, Guadalcanal, Incheon, Khe Sanh, and Kabul, names and places that are permanently etched in our memories. They served on land, in the air, and at sea, with valor, dignity, pride, and determination, answering their country's call by their courageous acts and deeds, many even making the ultimate sacrifice. For this legacy, our country owes them a debt of gratitude that can never be repaid. The formation of Veteran Shabbat was undertaken with the goal of honoring veterans and ensuring for the future the preservation of this legacy. As time marches on, this goal becomes more challenging. As we emphasized in past years, we must also remember to honor the family members who shared the fears and loneliness of their citizen soldiers as they left to protect our freedom and way of life. Last Veteran Shabbat, Liz Tam, wife of Colonel Robert Tam, of blessed memory, shared with us from this very bima, on behalf of all spouses and families, her experiences, feelings, and fears. On behalf of a grateful nation, we thank those family members that are here today, and may God bless them, as well as the veterans, our leaders, this country, and our community. On this special anniversary, in an effort to meet the challenge of perpetuating the tradition of honoring our Jewish veterans, the committee has undertaken an intergenerational educational initiative, linking together the next generations with the veterans, and to acquaint them with the accomplishments and deeds of their Jewish forefathers who served this country with distinction. Details of the program are in your pamphlet, but you have witnessed the beginning of this by our students' participation today. Through knowledge and education of our youth, by personal interactions with veterans, it is our hope that this initiative will ensure for years to come that our community will continue to carry with dignity, pride, and respect the banners of our Jewish veterans, and honor and remember all Jewish war veterans, past, present, and future. Their service and memories must never be forgotten. L'dor vador. I want to extend our greatest appreciation to Larry Katz, who voluntarily spearheaded this initiative, together with our professionals, Ari Reese and Sarah Klein, for their efforts and dedication in developing and implementing this program. It is now my pleasure, on behalf of the Veterans Committee, to wish you Shabbat Shalom and to introduce Captain Paul Gold, who served as a combat surgeon, United States Army Medical Corps, from September 1967 to September 1969 in Vietnam in the Surgeon General's office. He is the recipient of the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart. He resides in Bloomfield Hills with his wife, Linda, of 58 years. I also want to make special note that since the inception of this program, Paula and Linda have generously provided the boutonnieres for all participating Jewish war veterans. With much appreciation to both of you, I now introduce Captain Paul Gold, who will deliver the Veterans Creed.
Thank you, Donald. I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert, and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier. Now it's my privilege to introduce Brigadier General Donald Schenck. Brigadier General Donald Schenck has had a wide-ranging, distinguished, and impactful career spanning almost 5 decades of service to American soldiers and veterans through positions in the Army, in industry, and as a volunteer. During his military career spanning 35 years, he led a variety of operational and acquisition organizations focused on protecting American freedom. Upon retirement from the Army, he continued protecting those who protect America's freedom. From 2009 to 2017, he served in a variety of staff and executive leadership positions at General Dynamics in both Michigan and Israel. Today, General Schenck, among many positions, serves as a key advisor to the Executive Director of Fisher House of Michigan, which supports veterans and families in Michigan, and is Chief of Staff of the Department of Michigan of the Jewish War Veterans. He has been awarded numerous military awards, decorations, and service medals, all listed in the program, but including Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit, and the Bronze Star Medal. A former resident of Troy, Michigan, and Herzliya, Israel, he currently resides in Bloomfield Hills with Janet, his wife of 30 years. I am proud to present Brigadier General Donald Schenck.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. Before I get to the task at hand of introducing our distinguished guest speaker, I think it only fitting to acknowledge the great people who just entered the sanctuary. We're going to stand a little bit here, and we're going to recognize them based on their period of service. And gentlemen and family members, when I call the appropriate period of time, I would ask that you stand and face the congregation. First, will all veterans and Blue Star family members from the current era of the continued prosecution of the global war on terror, whether in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Africa, or anywhere else, who have served since 2001, please rise and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you. Please take your seat. Now, will all who served in Operation Desert Shield or Desert Storm in Somalia or in the Balkans, whether deployed or from a supporting location worldwide, both veteran and family member, please rise. Thank you. Please take your seat. Now, anyone who served in the Cold War era but not in the Republic of Vietnam, including service in Europe, Korea, South America, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba, and the United States, please rise. Thank you. Please take your seats. And if you served in Vietnam or in Southeast Asia in any capacity, or are a family member who may have served waiting for their loved one to return, or served in the United States during the war in Vietnam, please rise. Welcome home. Thank you. If you're a veteran of the Korean War or a family member of a Korean War veteran, please rise to be recognized. And finally, if you served in World War II, whether in the United States, in the Pacific, or in Europe, or North Africa, or in South Asia, or you are a surviving family member of any veteran from those conflicts, please rise and be recognized. Thank you to all of you members of the congregation and visitors and guests who are defenders of our nation and it's part of America's greatest generation. Now, to those of you in the front of the sanctuary, pay attention. This is your day. Revel in it. Revel in the love and the joy the members of this congregation feel toward you just for being in your awesome presence. Revel in the gratitude of the nation for your service and for the sacrifice of your family. And thank you all very, very much. It is now my high honor to introduce our speaker of the day, Senator Gary Peters. Senator Peters is our junior senator from the state of Michigan, having been elected first to the House of Representatives in 2008. That's when I first met him, and elected into the Senate in 2014. He has a long and distinguished service in state and local government that spans back to 1991. It's especially important that Senator Peters be with us today as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the ranking minority member of the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He also has key committee assignments in Homeland Security, Government Affairs, Energy, and Transportation. It should escape no one's notice that Senator Peters is also a veteran, and he was asked to speak today in his dual capacity as veteran and as a member of our legislature. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my high honor and privilege to present Lieutenant Commander and Senator Gary Peters.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. And thank you, General Schenck, for that warm introduction, and it's certainly a privilege to join you here today, and thank you for your distinguished leadership over many, many years. It is truly an honor for me to be here today as we recognize the selfless service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. For all of those here today and who we had the privilege of seeing standing, who answered the call to serve, we are forever grateful for everything that you have given on behalf of our beloved country. We are forever indebted to your families who have also sacrificed along with you. Generations of Americans have answered the call to serve, from the American Revolution to the Civil War to the brave men and women serving around the world today. And Jewish Americans have joined their fellow citizens to serve in all branches of the armed forces in every major conflict. My own family is like many military families. Our tradition of service runs deep. My forefather, William Garrett, was a soldier in the Continental Army and served with General George Washington at Valley Forge in that terrible winter of 1789. My great-grandfather, Julius Peters, was a Civil War veteran and fought in the Tennessee campaign. My father, Herb, served as a first lieutenant attached to General Eisenhower's command in France during World War II. And during the war, he met my mother, and after her town was liberated by the Americans. As a young French woman, she had to evacuate her home when the Germans advanced through that area, and for several years she had to live under Nazi occupation. It was truly a very, very difficult time in her life. Both my mother and father instilled in me at a very early age that freedom is not free, and we need to give back to our country. They inspired me to join the U.S. Navy Reserve, where I had the honor and the privilege of serving for over a decade with some of the most committed and most patriotic service members and families that I've ever had the honor of meeting. Our nation's military stands on the shoulders of generations of veterans who came before us. But the weight of that service is carried by fewer and fewer families than ever before. Less than 1% of our nation's population is currently serving. As a nation, we have a duty to every service member and their family when we send our military into harm's way. We must ensure that every warfighter is equipped and trained to complete their mission and to succeed. But it is important to remember that the most critical mission of all is to bring them home safely to their families. As we commemorate Veterans Day, we honor the sacrifice of brave servicemen and women. We must also honor the sacrifice that their families have made. For every soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who dons a uniform and goes into harm's way, there is a mother, a father, a spouse, a child, or a sibling who's serving right there alongside them. We are forever grateful for their unwavering commitment to our country. In my work as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, our nation's veterans and active duty service members are never far from my mind. I firmly believe that the number one responsibility of our federal government is to keep Americans safe, and maintaining a strong military is absolutely essential to our national defense. I also know we must never forget our nation's promise to those who have served, our veterans who have had our back, and when their service ends, we must have their back too. Far too many of our nation's warriors return home to face a very difficult transition to civilian life, and it is our duty to provide them with the support that they need. Recently, I worked with veterans groups from across Michigan to help returning service members who are suffering from the invisible wounds of war. One of these individuals, an Afghanistan veteran from Grand Rapids, came into my office for help. He had served honorably as a Marine, earning several awards. But then he struggled with the trauma following his return home. He struggled to sleep at night, and he suffered blackouts. He turned to alcohol and drugs to help him fall asleep, and as a result, he received an other than honorable discharge after failing a drug test. After his discharge, he went through periods of homelessness and had difficulty keeping a job. He knew that something was really wrong, and so he went to a VA hospital seeking help. After a comprehensive medical review, the VA diagnosed him as with a traumatic brain injury that he had suffered during combat. Despite this diagnosis, the VA refused to provide him care because of his bad paper discharge. It has been estimated that over 20,000 veterans may have a similar problem. That is simply unacceptable. It's unacceptable for our country to deny much needed care to veterans suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and mental trauma. That's why I wrote the Fairness to Veterans Act, and with the help of veterans organizations all across this state and all across this country, we were able to successfully work to get this signed into law. And as a result of this law, Iraq and Afghan veterans who receive bad paper discharge as a result of an undiagnosed or untreated mental trauma can now petition for upgrades to their discharge status, and if granted, receive the benefits that they have certainly earned and certainly deserve from the service in uniform. No veteran should have to bear the invisible wounds of war, and we must be continually vigilant to our returning heroes. No matter the mission, in times of war and in times of peace, it's our servicemen and women who have shown their unyielding commitment to our country and to each other. At a time when our nation faces growing division in a host of issues, I am honored to join with all of you this morning in our shared commitment to celebrate all of Michigan's veterans. We must always be united as a country when it comes to celebrating the service and the sacrifice of those willing to go into harm's way and protect our freedom and our liberty. As we honor our veterans, I want to share part of a prayer for veterans from the National Museum of American Jewish Military History that speaks to what Veterans Day is all about. It reads, "Bless our veterans, our defenders of liberty, who brave danger to defend us from tyranny. Grant healing and recovery to those who have been wounded physically or emotionally. Keep their spirits high and make them resilient in the aftermath of danger and loss. Grant our veterans opportunities to attest to the sincerity of our gratitude, as we today attest to our gratitude to them and our reliance on you. May they find spiritual joy of home and family and in the faithfulness of your Torah. We pray for individual and collective peace and tranquility. None who puts faith in you need ever feel friendless or forsaken." Thank you again for welcoming me here today. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Senator Peters, for your beautiful remarks today. Thank you, sir, for your distinguished leadership on behalf of our state, on behalf of our country, and on behalf of these outstanding veterans and so many who've served. Thank you, and may God bless you. We continue now with our Veterans Shabbat ceremony. In just a moment, Chazan Propus will lead us in among the most favorite parts, which is, of course, the sharing and the service songs. So I'll invite everybody to take out their Veterans Shabbat booklet, beautifully put together by Kelly Dade Haynes. Thank you, Kelly. And I'll invite everyone to join in song with Chazan as we get to each service branch's song. I'll invite the veterans who are the members of that particular branch to rise in their place at that time. And then when your service song has been completed, I'll invite you to be seated. So now, once again, we turn in our Veterans Shabbat booklets to our service songs. First, we'll invite up the veterans of the United States Army to please rise.
Over hill, over dale, as we hit the dusty trail, and those caissons go rolling along. Counter march right about, hear those black soldiers shout, and those caissons go rolling along. For it's high in the field artillery, call your numbers up strong. those caissons are rolling along.
United States Marine Corps.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air and land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine.
The United States Navy.
Anchors aweigh, my boys, anchors aweigh. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. To our last night on shore, bring to the foam. Until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
The United States Air Force.
Coast Guard.
We do Coast Guard next. United States Coast Guard. Sorry about that. Air Force, you may be seated. The United States Coast Guard.
Semper marching song, we fight on land and sea. The surf and storm and howling gale, how shall our banner be? Semper is our guide, our fame, our glory too. To fight, to win, or fight and die, hey, Coast Guard, we are for you.
All right, Air Force, please rise.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high to the sun. Here they come, soon to meet our thunder, and boys give the run. Down we dive, spouting our flames for under, off on one hell of a roar. We live in fame, or go down in flame, and nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
You may be seated. In addition to celebrating this week Veterans Day and using this Shabbat as an opportunity to give thanks to each of you and your families for your service to our country, we also mark the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. As I was thinking about the intersection of these two events, I'm mindful that among the central messages of our Torah, given thousands of years ago after our for ourselves, but also that we must stand up for all those who are in need. Indeed, the Torah reminds us time and again that we were strangers in Egypt, not because we are going to forget, but because as strangers ourselves, we have an obligation to stand up for the strangers, to the foreigners, to those left out in each and every generation and each and every place. It's our job to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. As we remember a time some 80 years ago when we could not stand up for ourselves, and as we remember a time some 80 years ago when it seemed that nobody would stand up for us, We give thanks to each and every one of you and to all those veterans who have served throughout our country's distinguished history, who have stood up, who have put their lives on the line, and have stood up for our people, for our country, and for those who are in need wherever they happen to be. Thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. May God bless each and every one of you. If I can ask our veterans to please rise. God of compassion, God of dignity and strength, watch over the veterans of the United States in recognition of their loyal service to our nation. Bless them with wholeness and love. Shelter them, heal their wounds, comfort their hearts, grant them peace. God of justice and truth, rock of our lives, bless our veterans and their families, these men and women of courage and valor, with a deep and abiding understanding of our profound gratitude. Protect them and their families from loneliness and want. Grant them lives of joy and bounty. May their dedication, may your dedication and honor be remembered as a blessing, the door of a door, from generation to generation. Blessed are you, protector and redeemer, our shield and our stronghold. And at this time, I'd like to invite the children of our congregation to come forward, to take their place here on the top steps just below the bema. If you'll come right over here and center yourselves. And while they are doing that behind me, right along here, guys. Right along here. We can, everyone shift this way just a little. There we go. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of a grateful nation and a grateful people to offer to each of you and to your families our gratitude by offering you the ancient blessing of our people. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless each and every one of you and your families. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you, that you should know the gratitude and the love of an entire nation and people. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless each and every one of you with peace and with the knowledge that what you did was to bring peace. And in your merit, may God bless each and every one of us, our fellow Americans, Israel, and all the world, with peace, with shalom. And we say together, Amen. We will invite everyone to now please rise as our children join Chazan Propis in leading us and asking God's blessing upon our country, the USA and America. You're welcome to turn to the back of your Veterans Shabbat service pamphlets as we join now together.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in the solemn prayer. God bless for God Bless the USA. Tomorrow, as the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just the children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. There's a pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Amen. We'll ask you to please remain standing as we once again thank Senator Gary Peters, General Donald Schenck, Captain Donald Wagner, and the entire Veterans Shabbat planning team for all of their incredible efforts. I want to thank each and every one of you for doing the right thing by choosing to be here today to give thanks to our veterans for their incredible service. And a big thank you to our children in the Shaarey Zedek Religious School under the leadership of Ari Reese, and our outstanding PTO, Sarah Rothenberg. Thank you, Sarah. We want to invite everyone in just a moment to join us for our special congregational lunch that has been sponsored by the donors to the Shabbat Lunch Fund in honor of our veterans, and our congregational Kiddush, which has been sponsored by the Jewish War Veterans in honor of Veterans Day, and our Beam of Flowers sponsored by the Sisterhood in honor of our Jewish War Veterans. Our recessional will now be led by the Jewish War Veterans, as well as the Southfield Police Color Guard. We're grateful to the Southfield Police for their help this year and every year. And they'll be followed by the veterans. I'd like to ask the entire congregation to remain standing until all the veterans have left the sanctuary. Then we'll join together in Kiddush and Motzi.